Welcome back to another episode of the Authentic Me podcast. I am your host, Mel Yu. Today, I want to talk to you about gratitude and graciousness. Now, I've just come back from a 2-day roadshow in New Zealand, and I had the privilege of sharing this theme around gratitude and graciousness in Launceston and Hobart. And I thought, this is so juicy and such good value that I wanted to share it with you guys here on the show. So when we talk about gratitude and graciousness, like what are those words and what do those words actually mean to you? I think a lot of people throw around the word gratitude. You got to have gratitude. You got to have gratitude. But what do we actually embody it? And what does it actually mean? And you got to give grace. Make sure that have some grace. But what is that word? And these two words are a bit of a dance together as I dived deeper into the research of what these words meant. And so when you think gratitude, you might think the ability to appreciate things or to experience things and be thankful for things. And grace, when we say we got to give grace, is often we have to have compassion for others, or we have to seek to understand where someone else is coming from. And so they're all correct, but the difference between gratitude and graciousness I found from an energetic level is that gratitude is an inward thing. It's an internal energy and it's subjective. So what I might find to be grateful for, you might find something different. And then the idea of graciousness or having grace is this external energy. It's this energy where I am going to give compassion or empathy or understanding and be kind to someone else today. It's an external exchange. But we need these two dances at all times in life. Now, isn't it easy to be grateful when things are easy? Isn't it easy to be grateful when things are all really good and flowing? And when we say, write 3 things you're grateful for, and we say the sun and our family, it's all good and well, but gratitude and graciousness is actually tested in the hard times. Gratitude and graciousness is a test to your character when things aren't going to plan, when shit really hits the fan, when things aren't the way that you want them to be. Can you then practice gratitude and graciousness for those moments? And I want to share with you a few experiences that I've gone through, and I want to extract some of those themes for you today. So hopefully this helps. And a lot of public information is known of when I found Angus, who died by suicide in our family home. And that was a moment in life that was very much the fork in the road for me. When you find the love of your life at the time, at 23, in your garage, and you don't remember whether it was the screaming or our corgi Doris barking, or suddenly the house was just filled with heaps of family and friends, or when you have the police ask you to identify his handwriting in his suicide note. In those darkest of dark moments, trust me, I didn't feel that I had anything to be grateful for. When everyone else's lives kept going and there was a funeral and then everyone went back to work, but my life was stuck and my life was at a standstill. I wasn't working. I wasn't doing anything over that summer. And I remember when his ashes came back, and our favorite movie was 8 Mile with Eminem, and I would hold his ashes and sleep in his oversized t-shirt. I could not find gratitude then. But over time, as I grew up, the reality is gratitude is being able to find the moments that brought me so much joy, that Gus's smile still lives in my memory to this day, that his thirst for life, his energy, like his rock star energy was second to none. And anyone that had met him just knew that that guy was way too big for this universe and this earth, which is why he had to go so soon. But gratitude is for those memories. Gratitude is for the laughter. It's for the 6 years that we were together, that he chose me. That for the 6 years that we were together, we created the most phenomenal memories and friendships across all over the world when we traveled and when we experienced things. Graciousness was being able to raise your hand and say, I need help. Graciousness was my ability to let others in, their food packages, their care packages, their hampers at the door, people just coming to visit me and making sure that I was okay, taking me out so that I could free up my mind for a bit. Graciousness was the ability to let kindness in and be kind and receive kindness in a moment that was so dark. And then as we grew up and as I grew up and life started to evolve, I was advocating in mental health and doing a lot of suicide prevention work, working with the Royal Commission on assisting the hospital beds and systems to not make these systems and hospitals like a revolving door, right? And I started advocating and speaking with Lifeline. I was in the media a lot and the business was starting to take off with MCO events. And life was actually starting to get really bright and I had a lot to be grateful for when things were good. And then in 2022, December for Christmas Day, I remember, and I don't miss a beat, right? At these family dinners and family lunches with the Yu family, I just don't miss a beat. And I just remember seeing my auntie, my dad's sister, look at give my dad just this weird side-eyed look, a look of concern. And I remember going, what? What just happened then? What was the exchange? And my auntie just said, I'm not doing this. Ken, my dad, you tell them. You tell them. And I looked at Dad and I said, tell me what? You have to let me know what's going on. Stage 4 cancer with 3 months left to live. And he had discovered it so late because Dad's just someone that never goes to hospitals or goes to the doctors or GP. And the cancer had already spread through his throat, through his lungs, and all over his body. It had spread so far that it was just not going to be salvageable. And in that moment, from that day forward, I became a full-time carer. And do I grieve now that we got 18 months from Dad, but do I grieve the things of that he will never see me walk down the aisle, that my grandkids will never meet their grandparents, or at least their grandpa, my dad? But pulling gratitude out from that moment, gratitude was that I was home and by his side when he passed. I was actually traveling Europe and Paris at the time, and we had just gotten the next flight back so that I could say goodbye on the hospital bed. And gratitude was getting to see my sisters and my family and my brother come together and bond in that moment and just share stories and laughter about Dad. At 59, I think you just don't expect them to go so soon. You don't expect your parents to leave you in such a sudden way. And grace was being able to care for my dad without resentment. Grace was being able to move all of my priorities around and look after him without any malice or resentment, and just to go all in and serve him for the time that I did. And one of the most recent experiences where gratitude and grace came along through the hard times and when life really tested me was as we were building this business, and I had known that we had over-engineered and overstaffed the team for those that do remember, but I had tried to create a marketing media agency outside of our events agency. It was going to become our sister company. And we grew this so rapidly and so quickly to 9 staff. And there was no way that I had the leadership skills to hold that many staff with an office full of people, full-time wages, just all these clients. It was a lot. Until at the end of the year, last year, I finally did the numbers. And I looked at it, and the reality was we had overstaffed and we just did not have the revenue to compensate for this. And I had to start letting people go. And I never have had that skill set before. In my 8 years of entrepreneurship, I've never let anybody go, and I didn't know how to quote unquote fire someone. And I remember at the start of this year that was one of the hardest pills to swallow. It felt like I was swallowing glass, asking one of our staff to come into the room in the office because we needed to have a chat. And it was hard to watch someone cry, ask why them, and you've just pulled their livelihood from underneath them. But in that moment, although that was the hardest thing, and I vowed that I would never hire staff again, I vowed that I'm just not doing this. This is the hardest thing ever. I don't even want to run a business anymore. But gratitude allowed me to see that experience that was necessary so that I could become the leader that I am now. It improved my level of human understanding and empathy and my relationship management with employees. It's built me an incredible amount of resilience. And my mentor, shout out to Chris Christophe, who, when I reached out to him and I was in my despair, he said, Mel, I've let go of 70 to 80 staff in my career, in my time. It never gets easier. But what does get easier is your ability to handle the conversation with grace. And so gratitude for me is being able to experience that moment, because now I have it. I have it in my tool belt. I understand it. I know what it's like to let staff go. And you know what? It makes my onboarding easier now, and also the level of awareness of the language that I need to be able to hold someone safely in that space, but still be able to manage and balance the responsibilities of being a business owner, but also having the compassion. And grace allows me to do it with a language of respect, endearment, kindness, and offer referrals, letters of recommendation, and helping staff move on to their next career milestone or journey. And so in those moments that I just shared you, those stories, it's our ability and part of our character to be able to find the gratitude in those moments and find the grace. Because when we're grateful for the good times, we must also be able to balance and be grateful for the not so good times and the bad times that challenge us. And I hope this episode really puts some of that into perspective and dives deeper into those two words that we, I think, use so loosely, but we don't really embody or understand the true meaning of what it means to have gratitude in our day-to-day and grace. And so as you leave this episode, I'd love for you to be able to reflect and to think about the things that you are really grateful for. And again, if you're in one of those harder seasons, if you're in one of those seasons where it's harder to find these pockets of gratitude, just know that in that moment and in these timelines and in that season, you're growing and you're blooming. And even though it feels like things aren't moving forward, just being and going through it and being present in that emotion is you moving forward. And hindsight's always 20/20. So you'll learn it once you're healed and once you've moved, but just having that patience and that kindness to yourself. Give people grace, but also giving yourself grace. I hope this episode helped you a lot. If you loved it, I'd love for you to screenshot, share it, tag me so that I know that you guys are listening. And if you feel that a friend needs a little bit of gratitude and grace, please share this episode link with them, and I'll see you on the next one.